damage. It's very RNG, and I'm not big on casting things for RNG. It's like a dice roll. I'd rather have nice, consistent damage that I can count on personally, so I have a good feel of what I'm going to be able to do. Besides that, the only other damage dealing abilities Warlock has in its arsenal is the Shadow Flame. And Shadow Flame is pretty much garbage and not even worth the GCD 99% of the time just because it's so completely garbage. The damage is so low, dots ticks for less than Curse of Agony, it hits for nothing. But the good part about it is if you glyph it, it is amazing glyph. That snare is absolutely incredible. If you're going to run any 2 versus 2 as a Warlock, you have to have Shadow Flame glyph for at least the 2 versus 2 bracket because it's just so good. And then the only other damage dealing is Soulfire, and as if you're Affliction, you won't even be using Soulfire, so you can even take that off your bar. So those are just kind of the breakdown of the Warlock damage dealing abilities, when to use them. That's kind of your kind of the damage rotation. Pretty straightforward. So let's move on to the next part. Alright, so now I'm going to talk a little about how to gear your Warlock properly. Now, the first thing you will always want to do is make sure you get the proper amount of hit and the proper amount of spell pen, so in arenas none of your stuff resists or misses. So for spell pen you're going to need at least 130. It's generally the accepted amount. You can go a little bit over, generally not under. It would be fine. It's really no big deal if you overshoot it a little bit. But to get your spell pen, you generally want to go the spell penetration offhand. Get 35 spell pen to your cloak, and then with the spell pen you need that's left over, you get 12 spell power, 13 spell pen gems in your blue sockets in your gear. So that allow you to do is not only get the necessary amount of spell pen, but you can max min your gear, so you get the set bonuses. So you get a little bit more stats out of your gear, which is always nice. Now for hit, it's a little bit more tricky. For hit in PvP, the soft cap is 4%, but as a Warlock you want to go for 6 because there's things like Blood Elf racials that they have an increased 2% chance to miss from all magic effects. You have Undead that have a similar racial but to shadow spells. So, I mean, every arena game, there's going to be a Blood Elf in there, there's going to be an Undead. You just want to eliminate all the RNG. So what you generally do is you go for 6% hit. You always want to kind of shoot for that 6% hit. And the best way to get it is, first, you do not want to get any hit pieces of gear from PvP. The only hit piece you want is this Ashen Band Ring, and it's really easy to get. Spend an hour in ICC rep farming, and you can get this ring. Now, I'd recommend getting it up to Revered, but you could go in there and get Friendly, and that would be good too. So, you're going to want to get this Ashen Band Ring that gives you 50 hit rating. And then, after that, you're going to want to get 3 spell power hit gems, and you're going to put them one in your boots, one in your chest, and one in your shoulders. And essentially, you're putting the spell power hit gems in yellow sockets. So not only do you get the set bonuses now from these pieces of gear, but you get a perfect amount of hit rating. You get 3% almost right on the dot, so you don't waste any stats going over the hit cap or going under the hit cap. Now for the rest of the hit, the extra 3% you need to get to that 6%, you get it from this talent suppression. So once you do that, you will have combined 6% hit, which will be perfect for any PvP setting. And not only will you have your cap hit, but now you get all the set bonuses from all your gear. So that's a really big plus to gearing this way. It's pretty much the best way to gear your character. There's pretty much no better way to max min your Warlock than to do it this way. Now, for a PvP trinket, some people still want to use that Wintergrass PvP trinket. I would not recommend using it. It's just too outdated. It's item level 213. It's from Season 5. It's just too outdated. It's too much of an old relic. You really should get the new medallion, the new PvP medallion with 153 resilience. So besides that, the general philosophy to gearing a warlock is spell power. You want to go for spell power. It's the most important stat after you gear your hit and your spell pen. And then haste and resilience are the second most. And then after that you have stamina. And then all the other stats outside of that are pretty much garbage. Maybe crit and spirit are kind of down there at the bottom. So generally, how I gear is all my red sockets I just put spell power in, and all my leftover sockets I'll just put in spell power too. So that'll kind of give me the maximum amount of spell power, but I'll still be well rounded because I got my set bonuses. I use my resilience medallions. So that'll give me high spell power, but I'll still have well rounded stats. And that's pretty much the best way to gear your warlock. Warlocks don't use too much PvE gear. I mean, the DFO, dislodged foreign object, it's a trinket from ICC. If you can get that, it's very good, but you honestly do not need it. Warlocks use very little to no PvE gear. I would not recommend using any PvE gear in your main pieces. I would go full PvP gear in those slots just because so with the resilience buff and just the passive set bonuses are so good now, there's no reason not to use just almost full PvP gear, except maybe a trinket, or in this case, this one Ashen Band ring from ICC. And that's really all it takes to gear your Warlock. Really straightforward, really simple. So there you go.